New Buddha Way Dharma Talks. Geoff Hunt presents a talk on some aspect of the Buddha's teaching.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you, especially during these difficult times. I don't know about you, but I always look forward to seeing you all again. And I hope soon we'll be able to do that in person. Today I thought I'd talk about the 7 factors of enlightenment. The Buddha's teachings can be taught in different ways. Very often monks especially would teach it in terms of doctrine, that is a list of set teachings which are quite easy to remember. I don't normally teach in that way, but the 7 factors of enlightenment are quite useful to remember, for some people anyway. It depends on your frame of mind. 7 factors of enlightenment, that's Bojjhanga. Bojjhanga meaning Bodhi, which is enlightenment, and Anga meaning factors. So what are these 7 factors? Now, first of all, I think it helps to understand what the Buddha was responding to. You have to remember that he didn't sit there writing books like me and other inferior teachers. He taught from the top of his head, and it was occasioned by something or other. Excuse me. So sometimes somebody would ask a question which was related maybe to something that had happened, or some worry or concern that they had. And it's important very often to understand that setting, because without the setting, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. So what was the occasion? What was it that brought about this listing of seven factors? Well, first of all, there was the Venerable Mahakunda, who was one of the Buddha's followers, was feeling very sick. And the Buddha went to see him. The Buddha wasn't above going to see people, you know, he didn't sit there like an emperor waiting for people to come to him. He went to see the Venerable Kunda and asked him how he was, and he said, well, to be honest with you, I feel really awful. And I'm finding it very difficult to apply any of the teachings that you've given us over the years. What can I do about this situation? So the Buddha said, well, let's reduce it to its basics. And if you remember the basics, even if you can just recite them to yourself, they will help to lighten your mind and maybe help you to feel better. And that is where the 7 factors of enlightenment come in, because they were like some sort of medicine, if you like, or some sort of moral or mental booster. And it puts very neatly what are the key things of the Buddha's teachings. Now, we've already got some other doctrines, such as the Noble Eightfold Path, which you probably remember. And there's a lot of overlap between the 7 factors of enlightenment and the Noble Eightfold Path. But of course, the Buddha would, always change things according to the nature of the encounter or circumstances. So in this case, he's dealing with a man who is very sick, possibly not going to survive, but he doesn't know at that point. But the point is, he feels frustrated that he can't apply the teachings. So it wouldn't be much point, for example, in talking about right speech or about right livelihood to a man that is very sick. So what are the most important things for someone that's feeling they're just not up to it? Well, in short, these 7 factors, which are mindfulness, which is no surprise that that's there, Investigation, which I shall mention in a moment, which is really a deepening of mindfulness. Energy, to boost your own energy, your mental energy, not necessarily physical energy, although they go together, of course. Rapture or happiness, if just even a moment of satisfaction or peace, even when you're sick, is possible. Calmness of mind, concentration, and equanimity. Now, you will have heard of all of these before. So why are they there? Well, they're there because it's a recollection that somebody has, one of his followers, of something that he taught when he had a follower, namely Mahakunda, who was sick. And it's quite possible that Kunda would not have survived. So Kunda, of course, was already a pretty well practiced monk. He wasn't a beginner. So he just needed a reminder, and he just needed some inspiration and a boost. Now, this is not as strange or unnecessary as it might seem. If you take Christianity, when people are distressed, unhappy, feel threatened, whatever, they will often say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, etc. Because if you think about it deeply, it actually captures some of the important points of the Christian faith. Well, in a way, stretching it a bit, 7 factors of enlightenment serve that sort of purpose. What will give me a moral, mental boost when I'm feeling very low or very, very sick? Because I don't want to let go of the teachings at that point. In fact, that's when not only will I need the teachings, but the illness itself may teach me things which I need to understand and which would help me. So illness can actually show us the way. It sounds a little strange. You might think, it's when we are happy and well, that's the time when we can really put effort into meditation. Well, not so, says the Buddha. Very often it's when one is very ill that one learns the most. Because then the impermanence of life, the insubstantiality of oneself, the nature of suffering all come to the foreground. And those things we tend to push away, such as the fragility of human life, now strike us very directly. So, 7 factors: mindfulness, investigation, energy, rapture, which I think is an outdated word, but let's say happiness, calm, concentration, equanimity. Now, just a warning that these are not things that one has, but things that one becomes. This non-dual thinking. It's not as though I'm giving you something, or the Buddha was giving you something, rather, that he would say, well, just carry this around with you and you'll be all right. It wasn't some sort of talisman or lucky charm. Think of it non-dually. That is, put the particular subject out of the picture. What we have here is something that he's suggesting you endeavor to become while you're in that state. So be mindfulness. It's not have mindfulness. Be investigative of the Dhammas, which I will explain in a minute. Boost your energy. It's the energy within. That is you. That is the energy we're talking about. We're not saying take some vitamin C tablets. We're not treating ourselves just as a body, although we have to treat ourselves as a body as well, and so on. Now, many of you here, probably everybody, will have been sick at some point or been very sick. And who knows what will happen to any one of us at any point. Just don't know. And it can come a bit of a shock if you've never been really sick before. So it's good to be prepared for what one can learn from that experience. So, the illness of Mahakunda now, remember that he was talking to a very sick man who was saying, I don't want to lose the Dharma, what can I do? And the Buddha was saying, look, let's see if you could learn, almost if you like, you could chant these 7 things. In fact, some branches of Buddhism, it is turned into a chant, a kind of protective chant. If I can remember these 7 things and remember to do them, live them out, then that will help me. Okay. It's also interesting that the Buddha himself, according to the Tipitaka, was once very sick. We're not talking about his final days, but an occasion on which he was sick. And one of the followers came and reminded him of the 7 factors, or had a chat about it. So even the Buddha is not above reminders. After all, he's a human being like everyone else, and we're all in the same boat. So if you can imagine, as we have a little discussion about this, how you feel when you're feeling very low, very sick, without energy. Well, that explains why energy is here, isn't it? You might think, why would he put energy in there as one of the really important 7 factors? Because he's talking to a sick man. And to some extent, we're all sick, or we can become sick, and we don't know when that'll happen. Okay. So all 7 branches or limbs of the 7 factors, the Bojjhanga, are practices. So it's not enough for me to tell you what it is and then you remember it. It's not enough for you to understand it. That's fine. Understanding is pretty important on the way. But it's not about just understanding. It's about becoming that. It's about enacting, doing, bringing to life those 7 practices. So they're practices. They're things that you do. I doubt whether merely understanding it would help. It might if it's leading us in the direction of actually doing it. Okay? So you don't make a cake by reading all the ingredients, memorizing all the ingredients, thinking what a wonderful cake that will be with all those wonderful ingredients. And I can memorize, I can even, just repeat very quickly all the list of ingredients, but you haven't got a cake yet. Right? So this is about enactment, that is putting into action something which will stay with you to the very end. I think that is what the Buddha is saying. So let's look at these. Mindfulness. Why would mindfulness be on the list? How mindful can one be when one is sick? Well, you pay attention to the various aspects of the illness itself. And we will notice how, for example, now we're looking at our own mind, even when I say, is that we would tend to pity ourselves, for example. We're going to say, why am I sick? Why should I be sick? Why isn't anybody else sick? Why me? Will this go away? Will it kill me? What is going on? In other words, one is multiplying the problem or seeing it as a problem. Believe it or not, you don't have to see it as a problem. You just have to see it as how life is. That is how life is. and always was. So even when one is ill, one can pay attention to the states of mind in such a way not to pity oneself, but to let go of the pity and be aware of the arising of negative states which multiply your suffering. Investigation. When I first saw this, I thought, investigation? What does he mean? But when I read it in greater depth, what he means is don't waste your mindfulness. When you are mindful, look at the deep characteristics of those states of mind. This means not just multiplying your view of the circumstances. How did this happen? Why did it happen? Who brought it about? You know, which are the best medications to take? Blah blah blah. We can do all that. Not driving it away, but the states of mind that arise with illness are themselves telling you what this life is or can be like. It is impermanent. A hard lesson to learn. When I say it's impermanent, I mean I am impermanent, right? And everyone can say that, recite that. That suffering is always lurking in life. Happiness is lurking in life too, if you know how to deal with things. And that's why happiness is there, because you can be happy, or happy moments or thoughts or happy actions. You could be thanking somebody even when you're sick. What's stopping you doing that, except that perhaps one has become so introverted, so concerned about oneself, that one forgets that the person you're talking to may be even dead before you are. What do you know? Who knows that? As I've said so many times, we are all in the same boat. Mindfulness investigation means, investigation part of mindfulness is see the impermanence, see the suffering, see the not self, that this is not necessarily me. That is, my deepening the suffering is not necessarily me. I can push it to one side, I can detach from it. Not easy, but one can go somewhere along that path. Rapture, I'm not sure why we're still using Victorian English, some of these translations, but anyway, I don't remember the last time I used the word rapture, but happiness, I understand. Is it possible to be lying in bed feeling pretty sick and awful and feel some happiness? Well, if you watch your mind very carefully, you'll see that even that is possible. It depends what you allow into your mind. You are the shepherd of your sheep. The sheep are roaming about in your mind. You are the shepherd. You guide the sheep that way, you guide the sheep this way. Okay. Calm. Of course, calm. One thing we don't want when we are ill is panic. We want calm and mindfulness. Concentration of the mind, which is on the list, concentration. The mind not wandering, not being scattered, but staying with what is peaceful, what is fruitful for you. Not just falling into fear and panic and self-pity. These things don't do any good, have never done any good, and never will do any good. What helps you is control of your mind, concentration, developing energy. Now, energy, think about it. You know, the Buddha is always talking about minds. He's not talking so much about your body. I'm not saying we should neglect the body. So when he says we need energy, he's talking about mental energy. Now think about it. What is mental energy? What is mental energy? Perhaps we've never thought about it before. We know there is emotional energy. For example, we get upset and then we throw a lot of energy into it. Or we're trying to get out of the upset and we throw a lot of energy into that. But when we are meditating, what's happening to the energy then? Is it going in a fruitful direction or not? Is it really trying to investigate? See, all these, as I always say, they're all interconnected. So, investigation, but I need some energy, and I know how to boost that energy in my mind by directing my mind in order to be able to investigate the true nature of my states of mind. The concentration will bring about that calm. We should have learned that already. And when you're concentrating on your breathing, focusing on your breathing, you will feel the tranquility or the calm arising, creating space. Being excited, being angry, being resentful, none of these things concentrate the mind. If they are concentrating the mind, then you are in trouble. You've got to just let go and find other things, or find something to help to concentrate the mind. That is what we mean by concentration, is pacifying a scattered, fragmented mind. And that takes us to one you know already, because we have had a whole talk on this, that is equanimity. You see now why equanimity is there? How important it is when sick to have equanimity, to be balanced, to not let the mind go to extremes. It will go to extremes if you allow it. Stay in the moment. This moment, I'm in control of it. Whatever's going on, there I am, struggling with, I am eventually letting go of I am, letting go of me at the center of everything. I feel that. I feel that I am at the center of everything. But it's a delusion. I am not and cannot possibly be at the center of everything. How would it be possible for 8 billion people all to be, each one of them, the center of the universe? Makes no sense. It's a delusion. So I need to let go of that as well. Not easy, but people have done it. And it's a matter of degree, so you can do it to some degree. And share your thoughts and questions with others in the Sangha. So equanimity. So now we see why this is a kind of a list of treatments for any kind of illness. Mahakassapa was sick. Kunda was sick. Mahakassapa, in fact, was the one that was originally sick and speaking to the Buddha. And his sickness disappeared after this talk. It was Mahakunda who recited the Bojjhangas for the Buddha. And that helped the Buddha. Even the Buddha can be helped. Amazing, isn't it? We're all in the same boat, surprise, surprise. So finally, as a quotation, Buddha uses a simile. He uses lots of similes. That is, that this is like that, as a way of teaching. The simile of the peaked house. Now, by a peaked house, it means a house which has a peak, on which the rafters are like this, supporting each other. You take one away, there's a danger of the whole thing collapsing. Now, he's comparing this 7 factors of enlightenment to 7 rafters holding together a peaked house. They're all interlocked. So he says this, he says, the Buddha says, just as in a peaked house, all the rafters go together to the peak, they slope towards the peak, they join in or support each other in the peak, and of them all, the peak is mentioned, or is reckoned to be the chief thing. That if the peak is holding, then everything else will hold. Yeah. Even so, the followers who cultivate and make much of the 7 factors of enlightenment slope towards nirvana. And nirvana is a bit like an ideal. So think of the peak of the house as being the ideal, being the point at which there is perfect peace. Perfect peace. But only if you allow those 7 things at least to support each other. Concentration, for example, by itself is not going to do it. All 7 are working together, supporting each other. They're interlocked, just as the beams of a house. Start taking one away and the whole thing will start collapsing. Build them all up to hold each other, and everything then pushes towards the peak, and the peak is, in the simile, is nirvana. So the key point, I'd like to end with a key point, is what is the Buddha saying? He's saying basically consolidate your practices, see which ones are really central, all part of the rafters of the peaked house. Consolidate and unite your practices. So it's not enough, for example, just to get calm. Now, calm in itself it's okay, it's a good thing, yeah. But it's not going to take you to any special place where you truly understand the meaning of your life. It has to, these things have to work together. So you have to, see it as one unified whole, the teaching. The Dharma is one. The Dharma is like the taste of salt in seawater. Seawater everywhere has salt in it. Life everywhere has the Dharma in it. So consolidate your practices. Support one practice with another. Let's go back to making the cake, right? You've got flour, you've got eggs, you've got cinnamon, you've got all sorts of things. By themselves, some of them might be quite good. Others would be a bit odd, maybe not digestible. But when you put the ingredients together, then you get a cake. Edible. Good for you. Okay? So that's the idea. 7 factors of enlightenment. I'll leave you with that thought and pass you back to Lynn. Thank you, Lynn.
New Buddha way lets go of East and West and starts afresh in the life we have now. For more information, visit www.newbuddhaway.org.